So let's have a look at what's grabbing headlines here in France. Time for the newspapers. Clément Bonnereau is with me here on set. Clément, we're going to start with Manchester, of course. The investigation underway. Police now looking very closely into all sorts of lines of inquiry, really now. And the attacker's background is one of those, isn't it?
That's right. We know more about Salman Abedi, the 22-year-old attacker who killed 22 people at the Manchester Arena on Monday night. As Libération says on its front page this morning, he's a mysterious man. Police think he was just a mule who carried out the attack for a larger terrorist network, which is now being investigated.
Yeah, the police finding quite a lot of evidence that he didn't act alone, aren't they? And the explosive device he used was a lot more sophisticated than they previously thought, suggesting, of course, that he didn't build it himself either.
That's right. The New York Times was one of the first media outlets to publish photos showing the remnants of a backpack, nuts and screws, and a device identified as a possible detonator. Libération reports that this has led British police to widen their investigation and look into possible links to a new terror cell in the UK.
And investigators believe the cell could even extend as far as Libya, even.
That's right. One of the headlines in Libération this morning reads "Une piste qui se perd dans le chaos libyen," a lead that disappears into the Libyan chaos. We read that Abedi apparently travelled to Libya and was trained by local Islamic State group warlords. He's believed to have returned just a few days ago.
OK, well, that fight against terrorism in Libya and elsewhere as well, of course, likely to take centre stage today at the new NATO summit. Donald Trump there, the US president.
That's right. Donald Trump arrived in Brussels yesterday for a 24-hour visit to the Belgian capital. And as Le Monde puts it, expectations are high, but there are huge differences in opinions between Trump and other European leaders. The US president has been seen with a lot of skepticism by European heads of state. He once called Brussels a hellhole and criticized France and Germany for taking in too many refugees. Le Monde also reminds us that Trump and European leaders indeed disagree on a number of issues, including defence spending. Trump wants European countries to take defence into their own hands. They also disagree on climate change. Trump thinks it's a hoax invented by the Chinese. And of course, they disagree on trade, even though Trump has recently said that he's not opposed to the transatlantic trade treaty anymore.
Trump's not the only novice there, is he? We're going to see Emmanuel Macron there for the first time, and the two of them are going to meet too.
That's right. Brace yourself for a débutante ball, reads this headline in Le Parisien. Both Macron and Trump have very little foreign policy experience, but they couldn't be more different, Le Parisien writes. They remind us that Macron is indeed pro-trade and pro-EU, while Trump is fiercely opposed to globalization. But they do, however, have one thing in common. Le Figaro tells us they both have a 24-year age gap with their wives, although Trump's wife, of course, is 24 years younger than the American president, while Brigitte Macron is 24 years older than the French president.
Exactly. Nice to point out, though. Let's move on to some French politics for you now. With just 2 weeks to go until the first round of the legislative elections, Emmanuel Macron and his Republic on the Move party, they're hoping to secure a majority in France's lower house. How likely is that to happen, though?
Well, according to centre-left weekly L'Obs, it's looking more and more likely. You may remember after the second round of the presidential election, polls suggested that 2/3 of French people did not want Emmanuel Macron to have a majority in parliament. Well, they've changed their minds. Now, according to a recent poll, 43% of people say they want Macron's party to win the election. Meanwhile, 20% say they're likely to vote for Jean-Luc Mélenchon's hard-left Unbowed France movement, and 15% for the conservative Les Républicains party.
Bit of a problem, though. Things could turn out to be a little bit more difficult than expected for Macron. This is because one of his allies is now facing accusations of mismanagement, right as the French government is preparing a law to tackle, guess what, corruption.
That's right. As Le Parisien puts it, it's an embarrassing turn of events for the French president. French satirical weekly Le Canard Enchaîné revealed on Monday that Richard Ferrand, a key figure in Macron's Republic on the Move party and a cabinet minister, is accused of renting office space from his wife for a health insurance fund that he managed in Brittany. As Le Parisien reminds us, there is nothing illegal in the deal, but it couldn't come at a worse time for the government, just 2 weeks before the first round of the legislative elections. accusations.
OK, all the coverage of that, of course, coming up here on France 24. Thanks very much, Clément. Clément Bonnereau looking through the newspapers for us.